All right, so welcome to breakout room number 1. If you are here for community services updates from the Chicago Department of Public Health, Department of Family Support Services, or broadband, you are in the right room. If not, please go to the breakout room section to find the other room. So just for some housekeeping things, if you would like to find captions, please find the CC button for closed captions. There's also going to be American Sign Language available. There are interpreters in the room to be able to see that. Also, if para español, usa tu teléfono y llama 312-626-6799 y su código es 893-959-777617. And that's also listed here on the slide. The Q&A will be at the end of this session, so please hold all your questions in the chat and we will be keeping track of that. If you do have any need for assistance during this session, please email sphcollaboratory@uic.edu. And once again, this session is recorded, so please stay on mute so that we are able to keep track of all of that. But thank you again for your patience as I'm dealing with this little tech issue. But to get things started, I'd like to welcome John Pfeiffer from the CDPH to talk a little bit more about what they've got going on.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Pfeiffer. I'm the Assistant Commissioner here at CDPH. We have several RFPs that are going to be hitting for first and second quarter of this year. We actually currently have one RFP on the street for our street medicine program. This is providing COVID services for homeless populations, encampments, and just this is a direct services model to provide COVID services for those populations. We are anticipating a few of our other programs as well. Smoking cessation, we have two categories for smoking cessation. We're expecting to launch these RFPs sometime late March, probably early April, and then we're going to close in May. Also we have our community breast programs. These are our long-standing program. Both the smoking cessation and breast health are long-standing opportunities here at CDPH. And again, we are finishing up the RFP right now, and we should expect them to be published by the end of March or early April.
All right. You're in the same one?
Could I have the next slide?
Sharon, are you in the same one? Okay. You're going into another one.
So our next program is our lead abatement program. And we are expecting and this is actually going to combine. This is combining our lead abatement program is using our bond money and our HUD money, our HUD grant money together. And we're finishing up the finishing touches on this RFP. And we expect this to probably be late March, early April release date. This is going to be a big RFP for us. And then we got two more, and we got the last two here is our funding. It's our sobering center and our diversion housing RFPs. We're expecting more these to be launched in the second quarter of the second quarter. And that's a summary. I want to touch on one other thing. We actually have another RFP on the street. It's for our it's for our school vision program, and it is for our quality assurance and evaluation of our existing school vision program. So that's a brief summary of what we have going on at CDPH. Oh, I want to last touch on a couple of things we're expecting later in the year. So later in the year, we're expecting a lot of RFPs in the third and fourth quarter. Stay tuned for we'll have victim services RFPs, substance abuse RFPs, substance abuse disorder RFPs, and we're also looking for some of our HIV services programs, such as HOPWA, are going to be released in the third and fourth quarter of this year. But I'll come and discuss those more in detail at later summits. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, John. Next, I will be welcoming Julia from the Department of Family Support Services.
Good morning, everyone. It is so nice to see all of your names and some of your faces. I work, my name is Julia Talbot, and I work at the Department of Family and Support Services, or DFSS. I manage the request for proposal process, and I do a lot of webinars, so some of you might know me from there. I'm here to just talk about what's coming up in terms of releases for DFSS, and that is a lot, as always. We generally do about 20 different RFPs for all sorts of different kinds of programs every year. The department, as many of you know, we focus on 7 different sort of populations within the city of Chicago. That would be our early childhood division, which is Head Start. So that's our 0 to 5 youth. Our youth division, which is 6 to, I think, 24, depending on the funding stream. The victims or survivors of domestic violence, homelessness, seniors, and our returning citizens or ex-offender programs, which are blended in mostly with some workforce programs. And then there's one other, I think there's one other one. I'm probably, you'd think that after I would remember, since these are all populations near and dear to my heart. But I can tell you this, in terms of doing business with us, all of our RFPs are posted on the eProcurement website. That is the only place you are going to find them. And that is the only place you can complete an application. I see close to 1,000 applications every year. And there's always a couple times a year where somebody tries to email me their application. Please do not do that. We cannot accept it. All of the information about our RFPs are posted on the DFSS website under the alerts or funding opportunities sections. And I put the website address there. It's pretty easy to find. And then all of our DFSS RFPs have an application period of 4 to 6 weeks. So you can be guaranteed that you will at least have 4 to 6 weeks to complete our sometimes technically strenuous programs. I'm sorry, if the link doesn't work, please just Google DFSS. It's under the cityofchicago.org or .gov, and then you can go to government programs, pull that down and click on the Family and Support Service icon or link. So if you want to know more about any of the programs we are doing, I really say, please consider attending our webinars. And it's a great place to get your questions answered online. It's a great place to get and immediately. All of our webinars are recorded and posted on the DFSS website. A link is posted on the website. We actually have a YouTube channel, which I think is personally kind of hilarious because it's just full of webinars. It's like, and I do all the webinars, so I feel so slightly embarrassed about this. But you can go to the DFSS YouTube channel, and you can go to any of our webinars after, they're all recorded, they're all posted. Additionally, all of the questions that we get in those webinars are put into an amendment document, which is then also posted as part of our application in the eProcurement website. and or platform. And then, as I always say to anybody who's gone to a webinar for DFSS, we do not accept late applications, just can't do it. The only way we can accept a late application, and this holds true for the entire e-procurement system, is that the only way you can accept a late application is to basically reissue the entire RFP, make everybody who applied on time reapply and go forward. That takes a lot of time, and it's also not fair. So let's get into the next slide, and I'll talk about what we have out on the street now, which is pretty considerable. We had it was a bumper crop of RFPs for this winter. So right now we have our Capable program, which is a seniors program. I did a little program description, so it's kind of you're in my cheat sheets. So it's a intervention and fall prevention program. You would go into a senior's home and basically arrange for the short, for not major reconstruction, but for short, small modifications to be made to that senior's home, like grab bars and etc., to allow seniors to stay in their homes a little bit longer or forever. Next thing that we have is a prevention education on gender-based violence and human trafficking. This is our gender-based violence, human trafficking. This is the last of a series of gender-based violence and human trafficking RFPs that we've done. And this one is we're going to look for outreach, a delegate that can do outreach, education, and awareness in formats and settings where young people and or caregivers are predominantly served or seeking services. So we want you to go to places where we want you to have a willingness and the ability to go to places where young people are, where their caregivers are, and do outreach, education, and awareness on gender-based violence and human trafficking concerns. Our very popular youth enrichment summer and CHA summer programs are also out on the street. And that's for, these used to be through the CDGA process, but we separated them out almost 10 years ago now. These are our summer programs for kids ages 6 to 24, not to be confused with our summer jobs programs, which is for a slightly older child or youth, and those actually are not being RFP'd until I think next year. We also have these great workforce reentry programs, which are targeted at providing services for our returning citizens. And so these kind of go hand in hand. We have the employment navigator and the housing navigator. The employment navigator is going to work with up to 300 returning citizens with reentry employment services. And then they're going to work in concert with the housing navigator, who will help facilitate making sure that those returning citizens have adequate housing and housing supportive services. So I'm real excited about those. That's a new program for us. Although actually, aside from the youth ones, most of them are new or significant shifts on reinterpretations of an existing program. The other thing we have out right now is our shelter infrastructure initiative RFQ, and that's a request for qualifications, which will later then go to RFP. And that's for existing shelter providers to perform rehabs and upgrade works on their existing shelter spaces. So this isn't going to provide you money, a shelter this isn't going to allow you to buy a new place and rehab it. This is for fixing the roof or fixing that bathroom in an existing shelter and making it more accessible. I think there's also some interest in kind of trying to make it more rooms for families. So it's not just a huge room with a lot of people in it and not quite enough of a bathroom. It's looking to kind of make it more into a hotel model. There's a very interesting discussion in that RFQ about what we learned during COVID, where we had to do some quick thinking on the shelter model and house some homeless people in hotels, and what the takeaways were that in terms of higher outcomes in rehousing and just generally a better experience altogether. So that's what we have out on the street right now. We almost always have something out on the street. And now we're going to go to the next slide, and I can tell you what's coming up. In the next really, I just went out one quarter. So I'm looking forward to having a couple of different youth programs come out. One is our Service Coordination and Navigation Program, or SCAN, and that's for youth ages 14 to 24 at highest risk for violence at 15 targeted community areas within the city. This is a reissue of an existing program. We are also, no, the shelter infrastructure is, I'm sorry, I just saw a question. The shelter infrastructure is not for those only services, are not for those just currently funded by us. It is for anybody who is operating a shelter in the city of Chicago. I can hear somebody, perhaps we all need to recheck our mutes. So in terms of the SCAN, I talked about Youth Community Justice Initiative is providing assistance to families that have been impacted by the juvenile justice system and providing some Know Your Rights doing Know Your Rights workshops and legal aid stuff. And then we have the My Shy My Future microgrants. This is the third of 3 My Shy My Future RFPs that we have done in the department. The first one was Safe Spaces. The second one just closed, which was our anchor organizations. And then the microgrants is looking to fund one delegate agency with experience in grants management to distribute youth-focused microgrants to community-based organizations for 15 regions across the city. Those are the same 15 regions that I think were in the other microgrants. I can't tell you what they are off the top of my head. Additionally, we have our Tax Prep Chicago program. This is an existing program that we're going to we need to, re-RFP. We need to put it on the street just to make sure that people are, that if a new vendor wants to come in, please come and make your pitch. I can see here I didn't put in Q2, but that's going to be released sometime this spring, as well as our legal services for unaccompanied youth. That also should be coming out. So I think, let me see, that really concludes. Oh, nope. I think I have one more screen. Thank you. So also coming out. Yeah, so it's been a really busy year. So we also are doing this flexible housing pool program, so now we're going into our homelessness programs. So we have flexible housing pool, low barrier shelter, and the homeless prevention call center. Flexible housing pool connects individuals with complex needs to supportive housing. And so that's basically, yeah, I think the program description says it all. Low barrier shelter is helping people who live in encampments navigate the housing system to basically find permanent housing that is not an encampment. And then you are going to be temporary. The idea is that we temporarily shelter those people outside of their encampment in a low barrier navigation center, because a lot of the reasons that you would end up in an encampment in the first place is that the traditional homeless shelter model is not going to work for you for whatever reason, whether it be that you are not substance compliant, or you have a pet, or any of the other kinds of things. And then the homeless prevention call center, which is an existing program, and that's going to be, we want somebody to, the second quarter is, let's see, the first quarter is January, February, March. So the second quarter is April, May, and June. And when I say second quarter, give me until June 30th. Okay. If you want to call, my email, my phone number is all over the internet. If you, in connection to webinars and this kind of stuff, if you want to call me, that's great. And I love hearing from people, and I love providing people with information and helping everybody get to that next step from a RFP standpoint. And but when I say second quarter, you can call me on April 1st, but that doesn't mean it's going to be coming out on April 1st. So getting back to what I was talking about in terms of the homeless prevention call center, I totally get distracted by all the chat questions, which I can't kind of figure out how to hide. we want somebody who can provide, manage, collect data, and staff a call center, which connects at-risk and homeless people and families to programming and services. So I saw in the chat, there was a question about like, why is that different from 311? So what happens here is, and we have one for domestic violence too, it's just when you call 311, they'll basically connect you to the homeless prevention call center, because it's a bunch of people at a call center who have deeper knowledge about how to get you placed. I think the call center actually is housed at 10 South Kedzie, which is a City of Chicago DFSS building. So it's basically, you're just going to get a deeper level of service if you call the call center. You can still call 311 and they will transfer you over. And then finally, I saw in the chat, there was sort of like, what about early childhood? We don't have an early childhood RFP coming up, but we do have a ton of Head Start funded early childhood support service contracts that we are all going to have to renew. I didn't even break any of these out. You can just see, this is just a list of the different RFPs that we're going to be putting out Q2. And by Q2 with this one, I think it's like really a June 1st kind of deal, not like tomorrow. So let me see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, there's like 10 or 12 of them. So that's like a lot. So those are, and these are not providing, direct services to children. These are basically supporting the entire Head Start system. So when we say nutrition, we are looking for people who are nutritionists that can that provide nutritional information on the meals being served at Head Start sites. When we're talking about mental health, we're talking about mental health services being imparted to children and maybe their families. I'm not 100% sure on that, to the entire, to kids enrolled in Head Start. When we talk about professional development coordination, that's providing professional development coordination for Head Start providers. It's not a direct service to Head Start family stuff. So I think, let me just check my little cheat sheet here. I think that that is what I have to say. So about what we have up right now, there's a ton of stuff on my list. Generally speaking, there's always a ton of stuff on my list. DFSS does on average between about 25, sometimes, sometimes 20, sometimes 35. Different different RFPs every year. So there's almost always something going on. You can call me, you can look at the website. That's a great place to start. Or you really can, we post a legal ad in the Chicago Tribune for all of these the day that they open. You can always just go to the e-procurement website and do that click for delegate agencies, like as was talked about in the prior thing. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I think the next up, I'm going to turn it back to Bea, and the next up is, I think, about broadband.
Yes, you are correct. I'm going to take a moment actually to stop sharing, but only because of the technical difficulties. Ajamu, who's also my colleague on the call from UIC here, if you could try sharing your slides. Don't know if he is on.
Yeah, I'm here. Give me 1 second here.
No worries. I just wanted to check in. But we will have Maggie Hooper from Broadband coming up next. I see you smiling over there. But thank you all for dealing with these technical difficulties this morning. And I'm going to real quick mute some folks. Any luck, Ajamu?
Good morning.
for the sake of time, Ajamu, do you want me to just hop back into screen share? Okay, sorry about that, y'all. I know that. Let me just grab.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Okay, let's do this one more time. Okay, can you all see my screen? Lovely. Okay, glad to hear it. Moving the chat over here. All right, well, as I had mentioned, let me just advance these slides real quick so that Maggie has what she needs. Welcoming Maggie Hooper from Broadband.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Maggie Hooper. I am the Chief Philanthropy and Partnerships Officer at the Mayor's Office. I am actually stepping in for our broadband representatives who are currently hosting a meeting of the Digital Equity Council. So we're unable to join us. Just to give you a little background on the broadband work, the program is designed to solicit proposals for internet connectivity initiatives in neighborhoods that have low rates of connectivity. Any successful adoption of this work really requires trusted partners at the community level to facilitate outreach and digital skill building and sort of uptake on the ground. We saw the success of this approach in a predecessor program called Chicago Connected, where we partnered with over 20 nonprofits to generate awareness and help enroll people in person. That resulted in just over 60,000 households gaining access to high quality and affordable internet. In the wake of that, Chicago has set aside a total of $28 million through the Chicago Recovery Plan for broadband and digital equity. And we anticipate publishing RFPs to identify and contract partners to further increase neighborhood broadband connectivity, complemented with digital learning and support. The RFP is going to be informed by the broadband equity RFI responses from recommendations from broadband experts that we've been working with, and a strategy that makes department assets available. This is sort of across the city and multiple departments, so it's a bit of a lift, but we are wrapping up this strategy internally and hope to have an RFP prepared and published by May. The general, obviously overarching goal here is we want to fund partners and create mutually beneficial relationships with the trusted voice on the ground and the hyper local nonprofit sector. So the two grants the total amounts have not yet been fully obligated. It will come out of that 28 million. And as you can see here, there's the digital equity learn to own, which is funding for community-based organizations to run the educational programs, training individuals, digital literacy, and, you know, upon completion of that educational program, each of the participants will also be able to will be given a free device to take home. And then the second one will be for neighborhood connectivity pilots. So this could include access to space at a city building, things at a park district, et cetera, as well as funding for broadband entities, offering the affordable and quality service to communities with low rates of broadband connectivity or who are otherwise disproportionately harmed by the pandemic. So the goal is to ensure that the existing underconnected communities get that access, but also that communities that may have had moderate connectivity prior to COVID-19 are able to reconnect and have that access going forward. I also, because I am not the subject matter expert on this particular program, there is a website, chicago.gov/digital equity, which is where a lot of additional information can be found. And if there are any specific questions to the broadband work in the chat, I can go ahead and follow up and include responses to those questions in the follow-up communications that we'll be sending after the webinar. So please feel free to still put the questions in the chat so we have them and can get those answers to the full group.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie. Well, with that, oops, went way too far there. All that is left is on time for Q&A. We definitely see that there are a lot of wonderful questions in the chat, so I'm just going to go by order of what we see here. So I'm just going to start off with the question. Okay, Julia, I did see you answered it, but just in case people aren't monitoring the chat, I will say that out loud. Is there an email list to join to be aware of when RFPs are released?
No, there isn't. We would love to have an email function, but quite frankly, you all change jobs too quickly that we cannot keep on top of that. That being said, I believe that there is a function through the through one's iSupplier account or the eProcurement that will post, will send you an email every time a new RFP is released in the eProcurement system. I'm not 100% sure on that. Maybe if Latoya Vaughn is still in this room, she could chime in on that if you have better information than I do. But I don't know if that also, I don't know if that service exists through iSupplier /eProcurement. I don't know if you can actually tailor it to just get the stuff that you're interested in. So you might be getting emails about every single procurement opportunity from whatever it is that you're interested in to, like, paving the roads kind of stuff.
Awesome, thanks so much, Julia. Any answers from Maggie or John?
I put the link to register for the DPS alerts in the chat, but you do not have the ability to filter. So you will receive all of the DPS alerts, unfortunately.
All right, thanks so much. Next question I have here, someone asked, do you have an education RFP for re-entry?
I was just answering that. And no, generally speaking, our re-entry RFPs or re-entry programming is more focused on workforce than on education. I'm not 100% up on the Workforce Investment Act programming these days, but that Workforce Act, generally there sometimes is a provision that in there that a person could go and get some community college training. It's not going to send you to a four-year institution, but it might send you to a trade school or help you with an apprentice or do community college. That money is all administered through the city county workforce board. And so that would be, I would look to them if you were looking for education for a reentry population. We don't have anything. Our reentry programs are usually, as I was talking about earlier, are more focused on baseline, like let's find you some housing so you don't, so you have a place to live, because it's really hard to live your life without a place to live, and it's really hard to keep yourself out of jail without a place to live, if that's going to be an issue. And then also talking about getting you into a job to earn money so that you have an ability to feed yourself while you're finding a place to live and getting on with your life.
Absolutely. Next question I have here is, I believe you may have answered it a little bit during your presentation already, but is there any shelter infrastructure only for those that are currently funded by the programs?
So that question was referring to our current RFQ for shelter infrastructure, and that is open to anybody who has a shelter, like a homeless shelter. They don't have to be a current recipient of City of Chicago money to apply.
Okay, lovely. Next question I have here is, will CDBG grants still be released in April for May?
At
Hey,
this time, sorry,
Latoya, I think you were going to speak.
No, I wanted to just back Julia up. I wasn't sure if you had any additional things to contribute, but just in general, the CDGA grants are not going to be released this year. We're going through reevaluation of our programs, and then we're going to have a new consolidated plan for 2025 to 2029. So we'll be looking to release the CDGA in 2024. We do have some programs under the Department of Housing that will release RFPs this year for the 2024 final year of the existing consolidated plan. So be on the lookout on the e-procurement iSupplier website for additional information. Thanks, Julia.
I saw someone was going to speak, but I'm not sure if it was John, maybe. All right, if not, I will move on to the next question. Are there any grants coming specific to funding programs for children ages 0 to 5?
so as I talked about, I left, the best for last with my early childhood people, but we are not doing any new 0 to 5 funding. That's not something that I see being RFP'd out, but we do have all of those support service RFPs coming up in the next, basically, for the second quarter. Those will be out like June 1st-ish. There are so many of them, though, quite frankly, I am trying to stagger the release because it's a really big lift for us to put out 10 RFPs at the same time.
All right. Next question I have is, how will call center differ from 311?
I think I talked about that when I was talking about the different RFPs, but a call center for the homeless prevention call center is going to be staffed by people who have a deeper knowledge of the kind of services and interventions that somebody who is experiencing homelessness would need. So a 311 call would be your first step, and they would maybe transfer you over to the call center.
Awesome, thanks, Julia. And yes, I do remember you talking a little bit about it, but just for the sake of the recording, so folks can hear the question, we can have that there. Next question we have here is, any particular contacts that could help with the application and tracking of rollouts? I think we kind of covered it a bit, but if folks wanted to have any expansion on that. Well, then I think for that question, I can just say, there's that email list that folks were talking about, even though that will have everything. And then also just, if you want, some of the folks on this call have provided their email information, maybe getting in contact with them would be the best.
I mean, for DFSS, I would just say, please go to our website and to look at e-procurement.
For CDPH, one of the we've worked on tuning up or improving our outreach, and one of the things we've done is we're doing email blasts of each RFP to our Healthy Chicago mail list, and I'm going to add that link to the chat. This is all our emails, but we found this is the kind of the best way to kind of reach out to everyone that may be interested in RFPs. So I'll add that if you want to be a part of, you're going to get all of CDPH's emails, but you'll also it's a lot of good information, but it'll also include our RFP releases.
Awesome. That is great information to know, John. Another question we have here is, any idea yet on the size of call control?
Oh, for the call center? No, I don't know because I haven't seen that RFP yet. I just know that it's coming up. I would, however, you could, however, like go forensic and try to find, all of all existing city contracts can be looked up as you can look them up by, if you know the vendor, or weirdly enough, like if you know the number of the contract, but you would not know that unless it was your contract, quite frankly. And you could try to look at the scope. I will post the vendor lookup email in the RFP in the chat here. I gotta actually go to it though. So you could probably do a little bit of forensic work and try to figure out what the current contract says.
All right, next question we have here. We have about 5 minutes left, folks, just for people to know. And if your question isn't answered in this space, we are collecting all the questions on the back end and we'll be reaching out with those answers. But with that said, the next question we have here is, are there or will there be any grants to support individuals with disabilities, specifically children and adults?
So we actually have a employee resource group now at the city. And it's called Disability Shy. I'm the chair of our disability employee resource group. So work really closely with MOPD, which is the mayor's office for people with disabilities. We did try to incorporate them into this session, but they're a very small and mighty team, so they were not able to join us. I can track down additional information on that and share it in the follow-up materials that we send out to all of the registrants and attendees. Apologies for not knowing that off the top of my head though.
No worries. There's so many different things, as y'all can probably tell, but that's exciting. More opportunities, right? So with that said, I see a lot of these upcoming questions are regarding RFP alert links or ePortal links. And I just want to reiterate that these will also be sent out after the event. And it may be a little bit more helpful just to keep you on the lookout for those. But in the meantime, there are a lot of links that John, Maggie, and Julia have been dropping in the chat, and it would be probably the best route to go there. But next question that isn't related to links. Someone had asked, Gifts from God has a male mentoring program for youth. Are there any RFPs that might fit that initiative?
I would have to know more about what your program's mission is and making sure that and I think that's a very specific question. And why don't, if you want to call me or email me after today, I would be more than happy to talk to you about that.
Next question. It is also, once again, a little bit more specific, so I will just ask the tail end of it. Do we know of any RFPs that align with folks becoming disabled due to gun violence?
I am aware of a number of programs and initiatives that are looking to better serve victims and families and survivors of gun violence as well, that do have funding involved. I do not know if that funding is going out via an RFP and or if those RFPs have already been contracted, but I can also look into that and send that out.
And John, I saw you come off mute for a moment about this.
Yeah, we have basically my answer is the same. We're working on developing the programs for victim services for the next 3 years. And we haven't yet decided what the RFP makeup's going to look like for that batch. So I'll have more information later this year, probably at the next summit.
Gotcha. Thank you, Maggie and John. So it looks like we are getting to time where we will be sent back to the main room for our next breakout session. Once again, I want to thank all of our speakers for coming to talk about their different RFPs and their organizations. And I want to thank you all for your patience with our tech issues. My biggest apologies for that there. But with that said, we are going to head back into the main rooms. If you don't know how to do that, it does happen automatically as well, but if you'd like, you can choose to leave the breakout room at this time. Once again, all of this was recorded and these slides will be sent out afterwards. And a lot of the slides have these links that folks are looking for as well. And if your question was not answered, we will be reaching out with those answers to those questions. So thank you again for your time and your patience here.
Thank you for hosting and moderating for us. You guys are doing a great job. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. All right, y'all probably see that little of this breakout room will close in 56 seconds. So bye, everyone.